At 3 a.m., while I was dead asleep, my sister slipped into my room and took my credit card. By sunrise, $11,000 had vanished, spent on a first-class flight to Japan and a shopping spree with our cousin. A week later, she waltzed back in like she'd been gone for the weekend. My dad, standing in my doorway, shook his head at me. "Stop pretending, she would never touch your money." I didn't bother arguing, the charges on my card said otherwise. It started with a faint blue glow from my phone on the nightstand. I thought it was spam at first, but the notifications kept coming. Groggy, I reached for the phone and squinted at the bank alerts. 10, 11, 12 transactions between 3:07 and 3:28 a.m. $1,200 to an airline, $2,800 at a luxury boutique in Tokyo, $3,100 for jewelry, a handful of smaller charges, $600 dinners and gift shops I'd never heard of. I shot upright, cold dread crawling up my spine, my wallet empty, my credit card gone. I didn't live with strangers, I lived with family. Claire, my younger sister, had been temporarily staying with me for weeks that turned into months. I'd been covering her groceries, utilities, and even her Ubers because public transport stressed her out. Now my card was missing. I checked her room, empty bed, no Claire. The front door was cracked open. Hours later, my answer appeared on Instagram, Claire and Paige at the airport, champagne in hand, captioned, "First class to Tokyo, baby, life's too short, make it luxurious." By noon, my bank confirmed the total, just over $11,000. I froze the account, filed the fraud report, and waited for the inevitable drama when she came back. She didn't disappoint, dragging in designer luggage, smelling like duty-free perfume. Paige was still in Kyoto. Dad was there too, ready to defend her. "She would never touch your money," he repeated. I smiled. The card told the truth. The thing is, this wasn't a one-time slip-up. Claire has been the family's untouchable princess since birth, spoiled, shielded, and never held accountable. I was the steady one, the safe one, which in our family meant, we can take from you because you won't fight back. By 23, I had my own apartment and steady IT job. Claire, at 21, was already on her third career path: community college dropout, beauty school quitter, cafe job deserter. Each time she ran out of money, I covered rent, bought groceries, or co-signed her cards. She never called it generosity, just what family does. 2 months before Tokyo, she'd begged to crash with me after a fight with her roommate, just a couple of nights. That turned into her calling my apartment our place and treating my groceries like a free-for-all. Then came the expensive deliveries, designer sneakers, luxury makeup on a budget I knew she didn't have. When I asked about it, she just smirked. "Don't worry, I've got it handled." Translation: someone else will pay. The night before the theft, she lounged on the couch FaceTiming Paige, scrolling Instagram while I worked late. Paige is Claire's perfect match in irresponsibility. Together, they're a walking disaster. Turns out, I was the one paying for their next adventure. I overheard just enough of their late-night chatter to know they were plotting another big escape, but I assumed it was their usual fantasy talk. Claire barely had $100 to her name. She couldn't even pay her phone bill last month without borrowing from me. At 3 a.m., while I slept, she walked into my room, took my wallet off the desk, and slipped my business credit card out like she was borrowing a pen. Later, I'd watched the apartment hallway security footage, Claire tiptoeing out with her suitcase, meeting Paige downstairs, and climbing into a rideshare headed straight for the airport. When Dad told me to stop pretending she'd ever touch your money, it wasn't ignorance, it was habit. When Claire crashed Dad's car at 19 while texting, he bought her a newer one so she wouldn't have bad memories. When she burned through $4,000 on a week in Miami, he said you can't put a price on life experiences. When she lost her retail job for skipping 3 shifts, he took her to lunch to cheer her up. But when I overdrew my account by $40 in college because my paycheck hit late, I got a 20-minute lecture on financial discipline. So when I stood there, Dad glaring, Claire smirking just behind him, I knew the truth wouldn't matter. He'd already decided I was paranoid, and she was untouchable. What they didn't know was that the card she stole wasn't just any card. It was tied to my IT consulting side hustle, the one I'd been building quietly for 2 years, and it had layers of security Claire couldn't dream of. The moment she tapped it for those first-class tickets, my system flagged it. Every purchase after that was logged, geo-tagged, and paired with merchant data and CCTV stills. I already had everything I needed, not just to get my money back, but to make sure no one in my family tried something like this again. A week later, Claire breezed in from Japan. No apology, no explanation, just the air of someone back from a quick weekend getaway. Dad still popped by to check on her, which really meant shooting me dirty looks for being cold. That Friday, I decided I was done with bankrolling her bad decisions, done with Dad's blind loyalty, done playing the family ATM. I set the stage. I told Claire I'd ordered her favorite sushi, the overpriced kind that makes you question your life choices, and that Dad should come too so we could clear the air. They arrived on time. Claire wore a silk robe and $900 designer slippers, the same pair I'd seen her buy in Tokyo. Dad wore his usual polo, his frown already loaded. We sat down, opened the takeout. I let them eat, then I leaned back. "So, about the $11,000 you spent on my business card," I said. Claire rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, you're still on that? I told you, I didn't touch your money. Stop making up stories." "Enough, Alex," Dad cut in. "We're not entertaining this nonsense." "Good," I said. "We're not going to entertain it, we're going to prove it." I pulled out my laptop and cued the report. First slide, Claire and Paige in LAX first-class lounge. Champagne flutes in hand. Boarding passes visible. Timestamp, 3:58 a.m. Dad froze. Claire's chopsticks hit the table. Click. Next slide, Claire swiping my card at Haneda Airport's duty-free store. Arms full of luxury bags. Click. Another, Claire buying those $900 slippers still on her feet. "You want me to keep going?" I asked. Voice calm, steady. Dad started to speak. I cut him off. "No, you've told me to stop pretending all week, so let's stop." I didn't just freeze the card, I filed a formal claim. The bank's already reversed the charges, and the police have this entire report. Claire went pale. "You called the cops? You made unauthorized purchases on a business account," I said. "That's not just theft, it's fraud." Dad slammed his palm on the table. "We don't call the police on family." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Family? You mean the same family that spent years draining me dry and defending her every mess? The family that told me to shut up instead of believing me when I had proof in my hand?" This time, no one had a comeback. Claire's voice cracked, her confidence finally slipping. "I can pay you back." I leaned in. "No, you can't because you don't have $11,000, and you never will, which is why you're packing tonight. And you, Dad," I locked eyes with him, "you're not welcome here until you admit what she did and apologize for siding against me." Dad's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake. She's your sister." "No," I said, standing, my voice rising for the first time. "She's an adult who's never had to face a single consequence because you've made sure she never has." "Well, congratulations, she's about to." I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a printed police report, the case number from the bank, and a transaction log for every purchase she made. "If you think I'm bluffing, call the detective at the bottom. He's expecting you." Claire's hands shook. "You're ruining my life." I stepped aside, pointing at the door. "No, I'm making sure you never interfere in mine again." She stormed to the spare room to pack. Dad stayed seated, staring at the envelope like it might explode, then muttered something about me being heartless and followed her out. The door slammed. For the first time in years, I felt absolute control over my life. The first 24 hours. The next day was a flood of messages. Claire started with texts. "You're overreacting. You've always been jealous. You'll regret this." When that failed, the voice messages came half crying, half screaming. "You've turned the family against me. Dad hasn't eaten all day." Good, let him feel, for once, what it's like when no one is taking care of him. By morning, Dad was calling. I ignored him. Then Mom tried. "Can't you just drop the charges? She's your only sister." I almost laughed. I've been supporting her since we were teenagers. The only thing she's supported is her own bad habits. The real consequences. 2 days later, Detective Harris called. They'd contacted Claire. Her options were simple: repay the full amount and sign an admission of guilt, or face charges. The next day, Paige called. She never called unless she wanted something. "Alex, Claire's freaking out. If she gets a record, she'll never get a job again." Then she should have thought about that before stealing. I said, And Paige, delete the Tokyo photo dump before the police ask how you paid for your ticket. She hung up. That afternoon, Mom showed up unannounced. They're staying in a motel. She said, "You've humiliated your sister." "No, Mom," I said, "I just clarified the facts." "You could have handled it quietly," she pressed. "It's only public because she made $11,000 in unauthorized purchases. She wanted first-class treatment, now she's getting it." The family split. Within a week, the family fractured. On Dad's side, Mom, a couple of cousins, and anyone still wrapped around Claire's finger. They painted me as the cold brother who sold out his own sister. On mine, my aunt, uncle, and a few others who'd been quietly watching for years. Uncle Rob even said, "We all knew she was out of control, no one wanted to be the first to say it." The final straw. 2 weeks later, Claire showed up, no designer clothes, just jeans and a hoodie. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "They'll drop everything if I pay you back in 6 months," she said. "I need you to tell them you're okay with it. You can send payments through my lawyer." I said, "I'm not speaking for you, and I'm not softening a thing. You do this on the record, or you face the charges." Her eyes glassed over. "You're really done with me, aren't you?" "I was done the second you took my card," I said. "Everything since then is just paperwork." She left without another word.